It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome into episode 552 of Rico Brogna. Give you an instant reaction to the Mets' victory over the Washington Nationals 12-6 on a Friday night. We all agree, it's all universal. The Mets have to sweep the Washington Nationals. The Mets have to elicit revenge on the Nationals for what happened last month in Washington, D.C. But more than that, you're facing a team that is 30 games under 500. You are the desperate ones. You are the ones that may need every single victory to ensure that you're at least a wild card team. Go beat the crap out of the Washington Nationals. The Mets didn't necessarily beat the crap out of them. They didn't necessarily make it easy. It wasn't pretty, but game one goes to the Mets. And ultimately, it doesn't matter how pretty it was. It doesn't matter how ugly it was. It doesn't matter how much stress we may have had in the horrific thing known as the third inning. The Mets were able to escape game one with a 12-6 victory over the Washington Nationals. There are a lot of things to get to, but something happened in this game that really hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm very happy with some of my accomplishments in life. Host a radio show with Tiki Barber. Had a lot of fun hosting a radio show with Craig Carton. A radio show with Joe Beningo. The Rico Brogna with the great Pete Hoffman. I even wrote a book, My Mets Bible. I married a beautiful woman who somehow allowed me to be in her life. And we have 2 kids. I'm very happy with all those accomplishments. But watching this game on Friday night, there's one thing I need. There's one thing that hit me like a ton of bricks that I need to accomplish before I'm dead. I need to replace Howie Carpin as the official scorer for one day. I'm not saying Howie needs to be fired. Howie does a damn good job. But for one day, what I ask the New York Mets and Major League Baseball is, how am I not qualified to be an official scorer? I sit there, I score every damn game, and I think I know what an hit is and what an error is. And I know the rules, and I'd love to announce it into the little microphone. We'll score that, E5. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, why are you saying this, Evan? We're 2 minutes into the Rico Brogna. The Mets are in a pennant race. There's only 8 games left in the season. Why is this a thing? It's a thing because when Jose Siri dropped a fly ball, and that's what happened. He dropped a fly ball off of the bat of Josh Bell. It was an error. Why was it an error? Because it went right into his glove and out of his glove. And it was a significant error because it led to a run in that sequence and then a run one batter later when Kyle hit the RBI triple. So instead of it being 2-1 Nationals, it was 4-1 Nationals. And so I write down E8 like any human being would because Jose Siri dropped the fly ball in center field. And then 2 innings later, we have to hear that Howie Carpin changed his mind. And if you saw the broadcast, some of you may have been at Citi Field, so you may not have known any of this. But if you watch the broadcast, Steve Gelbs did great work. He found out from Howie Carpin what the hell's going on. And Howie Carpin is a nice man, and he's a wonderful official scorer. So I just think he had a bad night. I just think he was being too sweet to Jose Siri and the Siri family. Because the explanation was, well, he ran a long way. He ran a long way. He dropped the effing ball. It was in his glove. And it came out. Is my anger really at Howie Carpin? Not really. Is my anger at the horrible official scoring? A little bit. I'm more angry at Jose Siri, who has been useless this season. Useless. First of all, he's on the team in April. He goes 1 for 20. Something of that nature. Goes 1 for freaking 20 before he gets hurt. Unfortunately, gets hurt. And then we all forgot Jose Siri existed. We forgot he was even something that lived in this world. Then Jose Siri comes back, and good for him. You never want anyone to be hurt. He comes back, And instead of taking his new lease on life and getting a couple of hits and making some diving catches, Jose Siri has been god-awful to watch. Has he gotten a hit since he's come back? I mean, his batting average is 0-50. He strikes out every at-bat, and then defensively, in the third inning of this game, Jose Siri tried to light the game on fire. He tried. But let me get back to the official scoring thing. I'm going to ask the New York Mets and Major League Baseball and whoever makes this decision, maybe it doesn't have to be in 2026. Maybe it'll be in 2050. Maybe it's when I'm on my deathbed. But I am damn qualified to be an official scorer. I want to be an official scorer just for one day. I'm not going to do it permanently. I don't want to take Howie's job or anybody's job. But give me one day to be an official scorer. And I can promise you this. A, I'm a tough marker. So there'll be some angry people. Too freaking bad. Get over it. You're major leaguers. I'm not going to allow a ball that goes off of somebody's glove to be ruled a freaking double because, well, he had to run a long way. Had to run a long way. Are you kidding me? It's an error. The ball was dropped. It was in the middle of his glove and it came out. I only pray that I get one day to be an official scorer and I get to make a call like that. One of those calls that it's going to piss some people off. It's going to make some people happy. And then, of course, 95% of people will not actually care. So I'm on a mission. I want to officially score a Met game one time before I die because I would not have made the mistake that was made on Friday night. Why am I angry about it? Again, I'm angry about Jose Siri. More on him in a minute. But I'm also angry because it really damaged Brandon Sproat's performance. You know how some things can avalanche? Is that what it's called? Or snowball? A snowball? Where one thing happens and it leads to another and it leads to another and things keep getting worse. In the third inning of this game, Mets have a very early 1-0 lead on a miscue by the Nationals when Dylan Cruz really had a tough time picking up that base hit by Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor hustled around third to score. So the Mets have this 1-0 lead and innocently Brandon Sproat on pitches that are very close walks Paul DeJong. Didn't feel like the end of the world, but he issues a leadoff walk, which can always be dangerous. He gets Jorge Alfaro to hit a swinging bunt, and unfortunately, Brandon Sproat makes a terrible throw, and it goes up the first base line, and Paul DeJong, basically mimicking what happened an inning earlier with Francisco Lindor, 2 innings earlier from Lindor, is able to score from first base on the miscue by Brandon Sproat. Sproat then walks the 9th place hitter, Jacob Young, which should be a crime since Jacob Young can't hit. And in the third inning, we're facing kind of this inflection point in the game. Like Brandon Sproat has given up the lead. It's 1-1. There's 2 on. There's nobody out, and he's behind James Wood. And Brandon Sproat, to his credit, battles back to a full count and gets the struggling Wood to bounce into a 4-6-3 double play. From that moment, it looks like Sproat is going to save his outing and really not let the third inning, which had a chance to be incredibly damaging when the bottom of the order is getting on base, he had a chance to get through the inning and have it just be a 1-1 game. No problem. To quote a wise man, no biggie. Sproat gives up the RBI single to C.J. Abrams. I should say, to C.J. Abrams. Okay. Kind of sucks. 2-1 game. But Brandon Sproat now still can get one more out, get out of the inning, and it's 2-1. And let's get now to where the snowball began, and it led to a lot of bad things, some of which can be avoided. Josh Bell hits a ball to center field. Did Jose Siri have to run a long way? Sure he did. I'm not disputing Howie Carpen's point that he had to run a long way. I'm disputing that once you get there and the ball is in the middle of your glove, you need to make the play. Jose Siri doesn't. It turns into what should have been a 2-run error or a 1-run, 2-base error. It becomes an RBI double. It then leads to Dalen Lyle hitting what should have just been an RBI single. Okay. And it should have been a 4-1 game, which sucks, but it turns into a triple because Jose Siri does not know how to play center field. We're told he's really good defensively. Here's the problem. As a Met, he has not been good defensively. So you could tell me what he did in Tampa. You could give me all his new age defensive metrics. Jose Siri has been a god-awful defensive center fielder, and his route on what should have been an RBI single by Lyle turns into a triple. So now it's a 4-1 game. To Sproat's credit, he gets Luis Garcia to ground out. But here's why all of that snowballing on the error by Jose Siri, which led to 2 runs. It should have been 2 unearned runs on the resume of Brandon Sproat. It turned into 4 earned runs. So, again, that's another thing that kind of bothers me. The final line should have been 4 innings, 4 runs, 2 earned. But here's the real problem with the Jose Siri error. Do you guys know where I'm going with this? Does Hoff know where I'm going with this? Because the snowball effect hasn't ended yet. Sure, the error led to a run or 2, but there's one other thing the snowball led to. Do you know what it is, Pete?
His pitch count?
It led, bingo, ding, ding, ding. It led to Carlos Mendoza seeing a pitch count of 71 through 4 innings, even though Brandon Sproat had a dominant 4th inning. He comes out in the 4th inning, gets a ground out and back-to-back strikeouts. But Carlos Mendoza sees 71 pitches. He claims he saw good at-bats from lefties in that 3rd inning, the Bell, Lyle, and Abrams at-bat, and decides to pull Brandon Sproat. If Jose Siri catches a ball in center field and it's 2-1, Brandon Sproat is not being pulled as quickly as he was pulled. So the spiraling that I'm talking about led to Mendoza making a decision that I did not like. I don't think anybody liked it. Now, the good news is the Mets won the game. There may be some people listening to the Rico who did not watch the Met game at all. Maybe they're like, hey, I'm going to find out how the Mets did by listening to the Rico Brogna, by downloading the podcast or watching it on YouTube or however you consume this thing. And you're probably confused now by my tone. Yeah, the Mets won. And there's a lot of good things I'm going to get to. But Carlos Mendoza pulling Brandon Sproat after 4 innings, after he pitched a 1, 2, 3, 4th inning, including striking out the last 2 guys he faced, Mendy called it aggressive. I call it dumb. You do not have a great bullpen. Now, the bullpen ended up throwing pretty well outside of Huascar Braziban. But again, I'm giving you a first guess. A first guess that I would have repeated even knowing the results. Because I would have given Brandon Sproat a chance to pitch the 5th inning. It would have been 9, 1, and 2 of the batting order. I have confidence he can get Jacob Young out, even though he walked him in the 3rd inning. I've got confidence he can get James Wood out, who he struck out and got to bounce into a double play. And even though C.J. Abrams hit that RBI double, Sproat struck him out in the 1st inning in a 10-pitch battle. Josh Bell flied out. It's just that Jose Siri couldn't squeeze it. So I was definitely content with giving Sproat the chance to start the 5th inning. And the other reason I didn't like it is because you used a lot of your bullpen the day before. And so even though everybody was available from the day before, and we saw a lot of them pitch again, like Brooks Raley, Edwin Diaz warmed up, Tyler Rogers, I don't think you needed to. You know, there are situations and there are players on this team, David Peterson being one, where I am all for being aggressive and going to the bullpen early. Not here. Not with Brandon Sproat. It is only his 3rd major league start. If you look at his pitch counts down in the minor leagues, he routinely got into the low 90s. He got into the high 80s. He was at 71. There was no pitch count reason for Brandon Sproat to come out of the game. And the argument Mendy used about the lefty at-bats, again, I just told you who he was due to face in the 5th inning. And the other thing Mendy said is, well, I want to give my bullpen a clean inning. Yeah, but you ended up using, let me count, 2 of your relievers in non-clean innings. You went to Brooks Raley. in the middle of an inning. You went to Ryan Stanek in the middle of an inning. And I'm not disagreeing with those moves. I'm just questioning the rationale for taking Brandon Sproat out. I'm going to read some of your emails because I know there was a lot of people who had those comments throughout this game. So instead of me just saying it, why don't we hear from the people? And we always appreciate your emails, thericob@gmail.com. Let's start by talking about Jose Siri. Christopher Kagan writes, Jose Siri is the net negative. Lock it in. I don't know what else happens in this series, but you cannot make 3 bonehead plays in 2 innings and cost them at least 3 runs and not be the net negative. I wanted to pull him off the field. So the other mistake that Jose Siri made, and I think this is what he's referring to, is when he came up to bat, and I'm pretty sure it was in the 4th inning, in a bunting opportunity with first and second and nobody out, as the Mets were rallying. They were responding to what had happened in the 3rd inning. Jose Siri is asked to bunt, and he gets called for a pitch clock violation that led to strike 1. That cannot happen. And it did make matters worse that it was Jose Siri, the same guy who made 2 defensive miscues 2 innings earlier, and then he caps it all off by striking out. Then he comes up 2 innings later and he strikes out. I think with Cedric Mullins playing better, with Jeff McNeil being an option, and more especially with Tyrone Taylor on the way back, I don't know how Jose Siri survives this, to be perfectly honest with you. He does not have options. So when Tyrone Taylor is available to be activated, which will be Monday, I mean, he's available to be activated, but he's going to do rehab games over the weekend. And then I assume Monday, since the minor league season is over, they would just activate Tyrone Taylor for Tuesday's games in Chicago. Jose Siri can't be there. And that means you're going to have to DFA him. And that means David Stearns, and boy, the offseason, we'll have fun with this, a long list of just awful moves, of awful acquisitions. Now, some of these acquisitions did not pose major risk. They didn't cost you very much. But nevertheless, Jose Siri, I mean, we all joke about Jed Lowry, the Jed Lowry signing. The Mets signed him to that 4-year contract and he never played. Jose Siri's worse than him because when Jed Lowry played and he got his 8 at-bats and never got a hit, it was brief and it was harmless. Jose Siri is harmful. And yes, he's got great fashion and it seems like everybody likes him in the locker room. Well, you know what? Hire him as a mascot then. But as a baseball player, I think he's on his way to being DFA'd. Corey writes, Carlos Mendoza is the dumbest manager in the majors. Why start Jose Siri? McNeil should play every day. We need his bat. There's no trade-off. Lefty, righty. Siri is batting .069. Yeah, I think starting him to try to get him going or to try to see if they can get him going, you want to just see if maybe coming off the injured list there'd be a spark, but there is no spark. There is no spark. Aaron Miller agreeing with the net negative. Have we ever been able to pick a net negative after 4 innings? Jose Siri drops a line drive. Jose Siri cannot cut off a single. Jose Siri, first pitch clock violation, can only try 1 bunt and strikes out. Yeah, it is a record. Now, I will admit, he's probably not going to see the field on Saturday and Sunday. And if the Mets lose a game or 2, I think someone else may take the net negative from Jose Siri. But for now, he is the leader in the clubhouse. Phil Gaddis writes, Evan, can you get Howie Carpenter to change his mind on the Siri error going away? It hurts Sproat's ERA, and he should have caught it. I am hoping that Howie Carpenter is going to go to sleep. Maybe he hears criticism, maybe he doesn't. I don't know if he listens to the Rico Brogna and wakes up and says, what are we doing? I don't care how long he needed to run. It's an error. It's off his glove. You need to make that play. Justin writes, Jose Alexander Siri. They should DFA him. That's it. That's the email. I don't disagree. I think that when you look at the return of Taylor, and you look at the fact that he is redundant to Jose Siri, there's no need for him on the team. So, sucks it didn't work out. Sometimes things don't work out. I think you let him go. If he had options, it's an easy send-down spot, but he doesn't. And the minor league season is over anyway. All right, let's get back to this game. The Met offense, the response that we saw in the fourth inning was a sight to behold, because trailing 4-1 after that disastrous third inning, we're all panicking. We're all a little bit worried. As bad as the Nationals are, Andrew Alvarez did look sort of tough over the first two innings. What I thought was really, really important, underrated, was getting a run back in the third inning of this game. So that inning we just described was the top of the third inning. They're trailing 4-1. In the bottom of the third inning, 8 and 9, Brett Beatty and Jose Siri make the first two outs. Francisco Lindor draws a walk. Soto gets ahead of the count, rips a single to right. And then Pete Alonso comes through with a very underrated clutch RBI single for his 122nd RBI of the year. It is important to respond. You don't have to get all those runs back, but you got to get something back. And so that hit by Alonso, bottom of the third inning to make it 4-2, underratedly a big moment. The other underratedly big moment was the Starling Marte at-bat in the fourth inning. They're down 4-2. Nimmo leads off with a base hit up the middle, and Starling Marte hits this weird little roller to third base, and Paul DeJong either thinks it's off Marte's foot or he's not paying attention, never attempts to make a play on it, and it turns into a 2-on, nobody out situation. Francisco Alvarez rips the 2-run double to tie the game. Francisco Lindor comes through with an RBI single, the first pitch he saw from the reliever, P.J. Poulin, and then Juan Soto. And I thought the Soto 3-run home run actually felt, not the at-bat, but the swing, where it went, how it landed, felt very similarly to the ALCS home run he hit off Hunter Gaddis a year ago for the New York Yankees. But as Soto hit that ball into the air, and I'm glad Gary Cohen mentioned this, but I think loyal Rico Brogna listeners already knew this, Juan Soto was bidding for his first 3-run home run of the season. He had not hit a 3-run home run all year. Remember, his first multiple guy on base home run and his only multiple guy on base home run came in Detroit when he hit that grand slam. So I've got the Soto home run leaderboard countdown, and a great game by Soto. Got on base 4 times, hits the 3-run home run that breaks the game open. He is locked in. But here's the Soto home run breakdown, because I do think it's kind of funny. He's hit 42, which is a career high, so congratulations to him. He had a career high last year with the Yankees. Now he eclipsed that with the Mets, which clearly proves that Pete Alonso is better production than Aaron Judge, better protection than Aaron Judge. I'm obviously kidding. Juan Soto's hit 42 home runs, 1 grand slam, 1 3-run home run, 10 2-run home runs, and 30 solo home runs. 30! Which is why we lovingly called him Juan Solo. Lovingly, of course. No knock whatsoever. So 30 of his 42 home runs are solo, but he hits the grand slam in Detroit, and he hits the 3-run home run here that gives them the comfortable lead. Of course, they have to make things interesting, because Mendy's decision to pull Brandon Sproat led 3 batters into Huascar Brazoban giving up that 2-run home run to C.J. Abrams, which made this thing close. And while it was close, great work by Brooks Raley, who comes in, gets 3 outs, doesn't break a sweat. Great job by Ryan Stanek, who comes in and gets 2 outs. And I thought, along with Gary Cohen, that Ryan Stanek was going to get the chance to come out for the 7th inning. But Carlos Mendoza did something very, very ballsy. Very ballsy. He went to Ryan Helsley in a save-hold situation. I was surprised by this. I did not feel comfortable about this. I think we mentioned this on a previous Rico. Ryan Helsley's getting into games. He's had some better moments, but to me, had not yet earned a chance to be in a close game. Hadn't earned it yet. Now, did circumstances really created by Mendoza, pulling Brandon Sproat as quickly as he did those circumstances lead to, screw it, let's give Ryan Helsley a 2-run lead in the 7th inning and see what happens? Maybe. Maybe that had more to do with it than a belief in Ryan Helsley. But when Helsley comes in to pitch the 7th inning, my thought is, okay, Tyler Rogers is available. Tyler Rogers will start throwing immediately. You got the 3-batter minimum. So obviously the worst case scenario is Helsley puts 2 guys on base and gives up a 3-run home run. But if he can get an out and there's 2 on base, I'll go to Tyler Rogers. If there's 1 on base and 2 outs, do I give him a chance to stay in the game? Maybe. Let's play it batter by batter. But he comes in and gets Jorge Alfaro to immediately ground out weakly to Lindor. He battles Jacob Young, but strikes him out. And then he gets James Wood, who is a mess right now. I don't know what happened to James Wood in the second half of this year, to fly out to right field. So Ryan Helsley does not create the hysteria we thought. He doesn't force Mendy to have to go to Tyler Rogers in the middle of an inning. He just gets the job done. So where do I stand? Where do we stand now on Ryan Helsley? I still don't feel good. I still would prefer not to use him in a high leverage situation. But Carlos Mendoza risked it. Now, he did risk it against 8, 9, and 1 of the Nationals batting order. He risked it against a catcher who was in a different farm system a few months ago, a center fielder hitting .232, and a leadoff hitter that's been a below average player for the last 3 months. With that said, Ryan Helsley got the job done. He wasn't facing the heart of the Cubs batting order. He wasn't facing Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman, but he did get the job done. So good work by Ryan Helsley and good work by the Met offense. The way they created that run in the 7th inning, this is good Mendy. I've criticized Carlos a little bit, but here's good Mendy. He aggressively goes to Jeff McNeil as a pinch hitter for Vientos, who's now all of a sudden going backwards offensively. He comes through with a base hit, goes to Luisangel Acuna, who steals a base, and the Mets are able to get productive outs from Nimmo and Marte to tack on a run. Then, obviously, they break the game open in the 8th inning when Mason Thompson made the mistake of giving up a double to Lindor, walking Soto half intentionally, walking Alonso, and then really screwing it up by walking Luisangel Acuna on 4 pitches. Nimmo gets the 2-run single, deep breath, all good. No Edwin Diaz in the 9th inning, and the Mets win 12-6. So a lot of ugly. It was not a great defensive game. We mentioned the miscues by Siri, the error by Brandon Sproat. It wasn't Mendy's finest work when it came to managing. But ultimately, the bats, who are so important to the success of this team, came through. They responded when they were trailing 4-1, instantly got a run back, took the lead in the 4th inning, and overall, the bullpen does a really good job. And the Mets get a victory they really need because, Hoff, we talked about it. These are games against the Washington Nationals. They're a 90-plus loss team. You got to win all 3. I don't care how it looks.
Yeah, and, I mean, on top of the fact that you have to win, the Reds won again, too. So, you have to – there's no looking back. There's no, oh, well, what do the other teams do? Okay, it's okay today to lose the game. No, honestly – and this is why I was so pessimistic going into this last stretch is I was concerned that giving up that inning where Jose Siri nearly lost the game a couple of weeks ago, Mets would have never come back from that. They just would not have fought back. And thankfully, guys like Pete Alonso, Lindor, Juan Soto, they're all hitting at the right time.
I have to assume, you mentioned the Reds, you have to assume you're not getting help. I look at these now 8 games, before this series began 9 games, and said, you go out and win all of them. There's no guarantee. You are in this small sample size period where one team winning 9 in a row or 8 out of 9 is not crazy. Look what's happening in the American League right now with the Cleveland Guardians. They win every night, and there were no signs of that occurring. The Guardians a team that basically was giving up at the trade deadline. The Diamondbacks, like, there's no difference when you really think about it. Like, there are similarities between the Diamondbacks and the Guardians. And so be on alert that all it takes is one team to get red hot. But the way to avoid it, the way to make sure that them getting hot is irrelevant, is by taking care of business. The Mets have 8 games left. Let's make this very simple. If they win 7 of 8 games, which is not crazy, you're playing the Nationals, the Cubs who have nothing to play for, and the Marlins. Like, winning 7 of 8 should not be crazy. But if you win 7 of 8, then nothing anyone else does matters because you make the playoffs. So it's about taking care of business. Now, as far as this series is concerned, Mendy made it seem Sean Manaea will pitch on Sunday in some form. Congratulations. Him and his wife had a child, so he's been on the paternity list, which has allowed the Mets these extra arms in the bullpen. We saw one of them, Chris Davinsky. We saw 2 of them, Oscar Brazaban and Chris Davinsky, who both got into this game. Wander Suaro is on the team. Obviously, one of them is going to go when Manaea is reactivated on Sunday. So it feels like we're getting another tag team on Sunday with Sean Manaea and Clay Holmes. But it's about this offense. It's about these guys hitting. The one thing we're not going to see is Kodai Senga. The fact that their answer today was he's going to see live hitters, I think that's code for we don't want him on the mound, but we'll keep him active just in case guys get hurt and we have no other choice.
I just want to touch on something with Davinsky because right now you just said like someone's got to go, and this bullpen has never really been stable. There's always DFAs, there's always new waiver claims, there's always this rotation that David Stearns is putting together. I'm sorry, but at this point in time, Chris Davinsky, to me, has earned a spot in this bullpen for the remainder of the season, and I might even include him in the playoffs. He has been fine. I know he allowed some runners on base, but he still got out of the inning. Tell me that about Oscar Brazaban. Brazaban comes in and lights fire on places. Stanek has been so inconsistent this entire season. Chris Davinsky has done nothing wrong. He's pitched about 15 innings so far, and besides one game where he got out of the inning they asked him to, and then asked him to double down another inning, which was I think his first appearance of the year, and he imploded. That's been it. He has been fine. Why should he have to be sent down again?
Yeah, Davinsky, the last time he was sent down, and Brazaban was the same thing. They were sent down because they threw too many innings and they needed another body up there. Remember, both Davinsky and Brazaban a few weeks ago pitched like multiple innings to keep them in a game in which their starters were terrible. I don't disagree with you. I mean, we haven't really seen Wander Suaro, so I don't have an opinion on him, obviously. Brazaban has been very inconsistent. So, yeah, Davinsky may survive this. I am more interested now, and I mentioned this on the last week when we talked a little bit about this on WFAN. I'm more interested now in a Peterson-Holmes tag team and allowing Sean Manaea to make a start. But getting back to Kodai Senga, and look, I think this is going to be an interesting discussion for the offseason, Rico. They feel down on him. Like the tone on Kodai Senga feels different, and it would not surprise me if the Mets look to trade him during the offseason. That would not surprise me at all. At all. Because even when he pitched well in his last spring minor league start or his first minor league start, they weren't very committed to him coming back. It was almost like they were unimpressed with what they saw in that start. And obviously his last minor league start was not very good. And the minor league season is over. So there's nothing left to see other than activating him. And you know what's crazy? And maybe this is me speaking more than what the Mets feel about him. Wouldn't you rather have Kodai Senga coming out of the bullpen than Wander Suaro? I mean, activate the guy, use him in a low leverage situation at first. So kind of like test the waters on it. And who knows? Maybe you can get something out of Kodai Senga coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah, but you just said if they're going to trade him in the offseason, think about this. He comes out of the bullpen and is a nothing. You just kill his value even more.
It's not going to kill his value. Dude, they're shutting him down right now, basically. They're not pitching him. If you're worried about value, what do you think that does to his value?
Well, right. No, you're 100% right. But I mean, I'm not even sure what's worse, bringing him back up and him just not having anything, and you've already eliminated him. Then at that point in time of being some sort of reliever, he's just a starting pitcher. And at this point in time, versatility in baseball is key. You're having guys become openers. You're having Brasben, pitch extra long innings. You're trying to figure out what to do with these guys. You need to have some versatility. And Senga right now, with his limit on how many days of rest he needs to begin with, it's just he's an issue. Let's put it that way.
Dan writes that seventh inning was the bizarro version of everything they've done this year. Ryan Helsley having a 1-2-3 inning in a high leverage spot to hold a 2-run lead, manufacturing an insurance run on small ball and not the other team doing something stupid or just hitting a home run. P.S. Jose Siri and Cedric Mullins have to be the worst center field tag team that has ever existed. Cedric Mullins has hit a little bit more recently, and Cedric Mullins catches that ball in center field. I know he's not the greatest defensive player, but the Jose Siri drop, Cedric Mullins puts in his back pocket.
Yeah, well, Siri, not for nothing. This happened when he first got called up too. The first day he was in the game, like he misjudged the fly ball. Like he has done nothing in the outfield to make me confident that he should ever play another inning in the outfield. I'd much prefer Jeff McNeil, and I said that, and that people couldn't believe that. By the way, is this the first time? We still haven't seen it, I don't think. Helsley, Rogers, Diaz, zeros across the board. Have we seen that yet?
I don't think so. And we almost saw that, but obviously once the Mets broke the game open, there was no need to go to Edwin Diaz, thank God. But how about Tyler Rogers? Tyler Rogers pitched in back-to-back games, the Thursday afternoon game and the game we're talking about right now, game one against the Nationals, and he threw 13 pitches over 2 scoreless innings. He threw 6 on Thursday and 7 on Friday. So you talk about being efficient. Tyler Rogers has been damn efficient, which leads me to believe he should be available Saturday late afternoon to come out of the bullpen. I don't think Brooks Raley will be available because he's pitched in back-to-back days, but I would certainly think Tyler Rogers is. Jim writes, Evan, longtime listener, first-time on-air commentator. 3 things. Number 1, congrats on yet another pick. That's right, our FanDuel pick hit. The over. I honestly can't recall you ever missing. Do you have a record of your Rico B picks? I'm going to guess at least 70%. You know what, Hoff? We got to keep records of this. Yes, my pick of the day has been I have not hit all of them. That would not be true. I've hit a lot of them.
You've definitely are over 50%, which is I got to be honest with you. I didn't realize that the average not bookie, but the expert is like 60% or something like that. It's not very high. I thought it would be like 70% if you're an expert at this stuff.
No, I don't even think it's that high. First of all, there are no experts. Let that be made clear. But off the top of my head, I know the anytime Lindor home run, the first pick we made hit, the underrun DeGrom strikeouts, I know I hit. I got the McClain over on strikeouts wrong. And then, yes, the one for this game he's referring to is the over-under on the game was 8.5. And I took the over. And obviously, that was done pretty quickly. I mean, in the 4th inning, the Mets almost hit the entire over by itself in the bottom of the 4th inning. Jim goes on to write, Helsley, you mentioned the other night there's probably not enough time for him to work into the circle of trust. With Friday's performance, clearly his best in a Met uniform, and now 2 straight scoreless, it may not be too late. If not the circle of trust itself, after tonight's dominance, at the very least, the best of the rest. Yeah, I think that when you look at the guys you trust the most in the Met bullpen, Edwin Diaz is number 1. Tyler Rogers and Brooks Raley are somewhere along the lines of 2-3. And then there's a drop-off. And then there are the guys who can sometimes be good, like Ryan Stanek or Gregory Soto. And maybe Helsley is now kind of in that grouping of, all right, I don't have that many other choices. Let me see. And obviously, the more he pitches well, like if he pitches well again, and then again, and then again, yes, eventually he enters the circle. And Jim also is about to make a point that I've received a lot of people questioning. So I'll let Jim represent the masses in asking this question. I could be amiss, but I follow your show religiously, both for therapy after a loss and cheer after a W. And I think you stopped the new cool game of forecasting playoff starters after each series. If so, we should do an emergency one tonight. and we can start to smell the postseason. I did stop doing it. I didn't stop doing it with an announcement. I didn't stop doing it with a proclamation. I quietly stopped doing it because it felt like a jinx. I have to be perfectly honest with you. We're sitting here talking about what the playoff rotation would be. The Mets almost fell out of a playoff spot. Even now, they're not entrenched in a playoff spot. So I stopped doing it because it felt like a jinx. Now, with that said, I will read Jim's playoff rotation if the season ended today, but I am not going to comment on it again until I feel more comfortable about making the postseason. Is that fair, or am I being too superstitious? I don't know.
I think that's very fair, even though I'd like to give mine today too. Anyway.
Hoff's like, screw it. All right, here's Jim's list. Nolan McLean, Sean Manaea, which in effect just the first half of a tag team, an ideal versus the Dodgers considering the big bat lefties, Ohtani and Freeman. And then his third starter would be pray for rain, pray for more rain, and then McLean.
That's unfair. You're dogging Brandon Sproat. I mean, even though today he gave up those runs, we could put, I think, a good half of those runs on Jose Siri.
Fair enough.
Just saying. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, he did not pitch bad, and the fact that the fourth inning was efficient, what are we doing?
So what's your playoff rotation then?
I am going McLean, Sproat, and I would start with Manaea.
Yeah. By the way, that would be my answer if I was playing this game.
Okay.
That would be my answer. It would be exactly what you said, which I think was Nolan McLean, Brandon Sproat, and I would begin with Sean Manaea.
Right, Kevin, exactly. Then you go batter by batter with Manaea at that point.
Yes, and think about all the guys you have available now into the bullpen. Clay Holmes, Jonah Tong. You certainly have options. Kevin writes, Evan, I bought your seats to tonight's game. Wow. You literally bought my seats to Friday night's game. I'm glad you did it anonymously because I get so many emails from people saying, hey, I know you don't go to every game. Can I buy your tickets? I feel bad. I genuinely feel bad once there's a name attached to you taking your money and selling my tickets. That's why I'd rather do it on SeatGeek. So it's all like anonymous. But I guess Kevin knows where I sit and bought my seats on SeatGeek. All right, fine. I bought your seats to tonight's game. I have quarter season tickets and 315. So it's basically the same view-wise. I agree, though, the front row is very nice. My complaint is that your chair has a sag on the left cheek. For what you pay, I would complain and have them fix that. I never noticed that. Anyway, how do your kids like the front row? Because I took my 8-year-old and he doesn't like the bar. Said he needed to look through it. I don't have much on the game besides the big 3 home run for Juan Soto. The place was jumping for him, was great. Also, Mendy should have went batter to batter in the 5th with Brandon Sproat. Let's go Mets. So I never knew about the sag in my left cheek. I almost feel like I'm responsible for it. Like
I was going to say
my tuchus is too big on the left side and somehow it caused the sag, but I will check it out the next time I'm in my seat. So the bar thing, I think both my kids got used to it. And I think they look through it and then sometimes will look up and then sometimes look down. I had the same issue at Shea Stadium. I was very, very young. My dad took me, had season tickets. It was 325A, Loge box, Shea Stadium, and there was a bar. And immediately, I had to look under it. Eventually, I got big enough. I looked over it. But the trade-off is so worth not having anyone in front of you. So when you're a kid, and I totally understand Kevin has an 8-year-old as well, that the bar at first is like, whoa, this is weird. You get used to it. What you can't get used to is someone in front of you. Whether it's standing every pitch or standing when a ball is hit or just simply being too tall and you can't see around them. So most seats that are first rows have some kind of bar. I think you just get used to it, and the trade-off is so much better, especially when you're a kid, of someone just being so much bigger while sitting in front of you, because then you just can't see anything.
How many times well, I don't know about you because you're always sitting at that spot, but I take my little, 8-year-old all over the place. And you know how many times he can't see wherever it is, whether it's a performance at Disney, whether it's a baseball game, whatever it is, and he needs to stand up or he needs to move around. Dude, that is a huge thing. So yes, a bar in the way is an inconvenience a little bit, but you work around that. Your seats are amazing. By the way, I just need to lay in on this about the left hookus. Here's the deal. Think about how you sit. Which leg is up on the bar? You usually put a foot up on the bar, no?
Sometimes. I mean, I move around a lot because of my back. People notice that when they watch the Rico on YouTube, that I move a lot. So there's always movement. But I never noticed that the left cheek sank. I had no idea.
I think it's because you probably don't realize this, but you sit in that position the most out of any. So you're probably the left seat, the left hookus is in a way where it's not that your left hookus is bigger than the right. It's just the way that you're positioned. That's my take.
Makes sense. No, makes sense. I do want to warn everybody. We have set an unfair expectation here at the Rico Brogna, where if there is some kind of incredible game, you're expecting a Rico. And absolutely, as we enter the final week of the season and enter the postseason, there are going to be probably Ricos almost every single day. Certainly during the playoffs, certainly as we get to the home stretch. So I feel like as a public service, I do need to announce that on Saturday, when the Mets play game 2 of this series against the Marlins, I have lots of plans, right? I'm going out to dinner. I'm doing a whole night in the city, and I'm doing it while attempting to DVR the Mets. Okay? I'm going out to dinner. I am not watching the Mets. I'm not listening to the Mets, with my hope being late at night, I will watch the game. Even if Nolan McLean throws a perfect game, there isn't going to be a Rico on Saturday. Now, at least from me. If there's a perfect game and Hoff wants to turn the mic on and do a Rico, you absolutely have the right to do it. But I am going to be out of commission on Saturday. So no matter what happens, there won't be a Rico. So don't email the guilt trip of, how come no Rico? Nolan McLean struck out 25 guys. There are certain days where I can just guarantee it's not happening. Now, there will be a Rico on Sunday. Again, you can consume that live on YouTube or download the podcast wherever you download your podcast, a series recap. And certainly next week against Chicago and Miami, we promise you frequent Rico Brognas. But Saturday, game 2 of this series, literally anything could happen. There isn't going to be a Rico Brogna from myself. I apologize in advance.
So I'm just going to throw this out as a spoiler alert right now. There might not be one on Saturday. There might not be one after midnight. But if something happens of a no-hitter or, whatever you want to crazy imagine something, I wouldn't be surprised if you get 2 podcasts on Sunday.
Maybe. All right, I'll give you that.
There's always that possibility. You never know.
That is always a possibility. I'm trying something so aggressive on Saturday. I am not that people care too much about my plans, but I got to do an appearance, and then I'm going out to dinner with my wife and friends, and then we're staying in the city. Okay. The Mets play at 4:00. And I told my wife, I don't want to know anything. I don't want to watch it. Don't worry. I'm not going to be distracted. I'm not going to check my phone. Why would I check my phone? I'm with you, my wife, not you, Pete. Oh. And she's like, you're going to be in the city at 8:00 at night. You don't think there's a chance the game is going to be spoiled for you? I said, there's always that possibility. She thinks somebody's going to randomly see me in the street, be a listener, and say, oh, that was a brutal loss today, or oh, that was a great win. And I said to her, you know what? It's the risks you take in life. I would rather risk that than not being able to watch the game fully the way I like to. So it's going to be one of those adventures in which I try to DVR a game, and there's always that risk it's going to be spoiled. But you know what? I'm taking the risk. What can you do?
You are going to be, I guarantee this, I'm going to predict this right now. Evan Roberts is going to be caught on camera by TMZ with a hood over his head as people are trying to tell you what happened in the game, and you're trying to be like, no, don't bother me, don't bother me, don't bother me.
Well, it'll be awkward if anyone like recognizes me and says, "Hey, Ev," as soon as that happens, I'm probably going to go, "Hey, don't say anything. I didn't see the back game. I got to go. Thanks for listening. Got to go." Probably something like that. Either way, Rico Brogna to series recap, and then plenty of Rico Brognas during the final week of the season. You can always email us, thericob@gmail.com. And remember to subscribe to the Rico so you never, ever, ever, ever miss an episode. LGM, thanks for listening to Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.